much for joining me today for this audible only Q yoga class. So I know that this can be a little stressful since there is no visual representation of what I'm talking about, and you may hold yourself to a very high standard when you're going through this, but I would ask you to have grace with both me and yourself as you do this. It is a very unique way to practice. It's very different, and you really have to work internally a lot more as you're listening and staying very present in your practice. This is also my first time recording a vocal, or I should say a Q only class, and so it's very bumpy and it may be very unclear. I am really looking forward to your very honest feedback. You will not hurt my feelings, but this is something that I'd like to get better at, and I can't do that without hearing from you all. So just know that you are not going to hurt my feelings. You can be as honest as you need to. Let me know what you think, if this was clear enough for you, and if you were able to practice with a low amount of frustration. The idea here is to be able to really go internally instead of being focused on what a shape looks like. You're focused more on what the shape feels like and the sensation, and really noticing how your body is feeling in this practice. So keep that in mind, and I really, really hope you enjoy this. And remember, breathe. Starting out in mountain, come to the front of your mat, feet facing forward, step a comfortable distance apart. Root your feet all four corners down into the mat, activating your calves. Think about lifting your kneecaps up and back to activate those quad muscles. Tailbone facing the ground, pelvis in a nice neutral position. Relax those shoulders away from the ears. Tuck that chin for a nice long spine. Bringing your hands into heart center. Press the palms of the hands in toward each other to create some heat and close that circle of energy. Keeping it for yourself for just a moment. If you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes for a moment. You can also just keep your eyes at a 45-degree angle. Soft gaze. Begin to slow your breathing. Be aware of your breathing. Breathe in through your nose, nice long inhale, and breathe back out through your mouth. Breathe in through your nose and back out through your mouth. One more time. In through your nose, back out through your mouth, but this time more forcefully. Bring your hands up overhead, staying in the heart center position, or keeping your palms together, I should say. Then circle your arms out and around, meeting back through the center, palms together. And make these arm circles, breathing your inhale as your palms come up toward the sky. Exhale as your palms start to separate and make the circle. Do a few of these on your own. Inhale as your palms come up. Exhale as your palms separate and make the circles. As they connect again, start your inhale. Start sinking this arm circle with your breath. Beautiful. Bring your hands back into heart center. Staying in your mountain pose, bring your hands out to a T, or your arms out to a T. So you're literally standing in a T position with your arms out to the side, stretching long. Think about reaching each of your hands to the furthest outside of the room, like somebody's pulling on each of your hands. Keep those shoulders relaxed away from your ears and keep breathing. Now we're just going to simply work a spinal twist here. So keeping your hips facing the front of the mat, you're just going to twist to one side. Arms out long, twist, nice and gentle. Your head is the last thing to turn. So you just want to think about your spine beautifully twisting to one side and hold it there for a moment. As you breathe in, think about lifting through the crown of the head. Lengthen that spine. And then as you breathe back out, come back to heart center. As you breathe in again, open those arms back out to a T and twist to the other side. Nice and gentle, slow twist. Head is the very last thing to turn. Keep those shoulders relaxed away from your ears and keep breathing. As you inhale, lift through the crown of the head, nice and long. As you exhale, come back into heart center. Beautiful job. Bring your hands to your hips. Have your feet maybe stepped a little further apart or closer together. We're going to move into a forward fold. So if you've got some extra tummy there that might get in the way of your forward fold, put your hands on both sides of your lower tummy and start to wiggle it as you come down into your forward fold. Wiggle it into the open space of your legs, giving yourself room for expansion. You're folding from the hips, not the waist, keeping a micro bend in those knees. You can have some blocks there to put your hands on. It is not necessary to touch the ground. It is not relevant or important. What we're looking for is a good, beautiful stretch, but we still want to be able to breathe and find ease in the movement. In your forward fold, let your head hang loose wherever you're at. Let your head hang loose. Bring your hands to your shins, lifting halfway up, chin tucked so we have a nice long spine from your tailbone all the way up to the crown of your head. And then back down for your forward fold. You can even walk it out a little bit here if you want, lifting one heel at a time in your forward fold. You can even cross your ankles if you want. Puts a little special spice on that outside hip. Just make sure you do both sides. Keep hanging out there in your forward fold. Good job. Now if you have blocks there, bring your hands to the blocks, preferably on the low, more steady setting of them. We're going to step back into a downward dog. So bringing your hands to the blocks or to the mat, whatever is comfortable for you. Step back into your downward facing dog. So you're going to bring your feet back, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 feet from your hands. Tailbone lifts up to the sky. Palms facing or pressing into the mat or the blocks. Heels can be lifted. Have those feet stepped far apart enough for your body to find some level of ease in this position. You should be able to breathe. If you need to adjust the tummy, go ahead and do that now. You can step back up for a moment, wiggle that tummy into that space to find ease. Good, now breathe here. Try to relax the shoulders away from the ears. It can be difficult, especially if this pose feels challenging to your body. But try to relax the shoulders away from the ears. Obviously, they're not relaxed. We just don't want them squeezing up toward the ears. We want them to be broad, wide, so that you're pressing into the back. Really push those full parts of the hand down, the palm, everything down into the mat or to the yoga block. Now press the heels down one at a time. This is called walking your dog. Press the heel down and then lift it up. So one at a time, walk out those heels. Remember, it's perfectly wonderful to have a bend in the knees here. You can bend so far into the knees almost like you're about to pounce like a cat. Do what feels comfortable. This doesn't need to look any particular way. This is the beauty of a vocal-only cueing yoga class. It may not look perfect from what it should in your mind, but it doesn't matter. You're looking for the sensation in your body. All right, now planting one leg or one foot into the ground. Doesn't matter if the heel's up. You're gonna lift one leg, just one leg. Doesn't matter how far it lifts up off the ground. You just want to make sure as you lift the leg, you're not also lifting the hip. So you want to keep those hips still level to the ground. So if the leg literally, the toes touching the ground, that's wonderful. If you want to lift it higher, that's fine. Just don't compromise those hips. All right, bring that leg down, switch legs, lift the other leg up. Each side might feel totally different, and that's fine. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. One might be completely up toward the sky, the other one, the toe might be touching the ground. They might both be touching the ground. Doesn't matter. All right, beautiful. Bring that leg back down. Hold there for a moment. Just breathe. I know this is a long time building up that heat. Breathe. Downward dog, not a resting pose, right? It's an active, intense pose. So we want to breathe. Now we're going to lift that right leg back up. And then we're going to step it through. Step it to the outside of your hands. And then heel toe your foot into the center. You can also step it through in between the hands if that's available for you. If you're using blocks, they might be really helpful to give you space here. But either way, it doesn't matter. You can step to the outside and heel toe. That's the way I like to do it. I find that much more comfortable. And once your foot's there, you're just going to find stability between the 2 feet. So both feet, your weight is distributed. And then you're just going to bring your shoulders up, coming into a crescent lunge. Hands come to the hips. So you're bending into that front knee, the front left leg. At the back foot, other side. You're bending into your right leg. Your left leg is long and back. Toes facing the front. Heel is lifted. Your hips are squared up to the front of the mat as you're in this beautiful crescent lunge. It does not have to be long, so find what feels comfortable for you. You can move that back leg back. You can move it forward. We want stability here. Your feet are as wide apart as they need to be to find comfort and stability. We're not looking for some extraordinarily long pose. That doesn't matter. We're looking for strength. We want strength in this pose. It is physically demanding on the legs to be separated like this. So think about squeezing the legs slightly toward midline. This is what brings a lot of stability in this pose. Your hands are at the hips. You can also bring them to heart center if that feels good, or you can bring them up overhead. If you bring them up overhead, have the palms facing each other and the pinkies start kind of moving toward each other. This will kind of broaden the back and close up the armpits. Keep those shoulders relaxed away from the ears and breathe. Breathe. Breath is home base always. We're always coming back to the breath. If you find that you're really needing and wanting a rest, your breath is your rest. Wherever your breath is, that's where you rest. There's no pose you need to go into. You can, or you can simply just breathe, stand and breathe, sit and breathe. Whatever you need to do, just breathe. All right, now straightening that front leg. Hands come back to the hips. Front leg straight but not locked out. We don't want to lock that knee out. Coming into a beautiful pyramid pose. And you're just going to bring your shoulders forward. Of course, bending at the hips, never at the waist. Bending at the hips. Chin is tucked for a nice long spine. Coming forward. Feel that beautiful stretch through the legs. Again, nice and stable. Weight is firmly pressed between both legs. We want to try not to focus the weight all on one side. When we come forward, we tend to bring it all to the front, which obviously makes sense, but try to still keep that back foot nice and grounded. Keeping those legs energetically kind of reaching toward each other. This builds so much strength in the legs, the inner thighs. Beautiful job, beautiful job. Hands come up to the hips. Going to step into the crescent lunge on the other side. So hands at the hips, step the other foot back. We should be stepping the right foot back this time. Toes facing forward, heels lifted up off the mat, bending into that front left leg. Hands at the hips. Weight distributed equally between each of your feet, your legs. Foot stepped as far out as you need to be to find that strength and stability and ease in this pose. And it can be stepped as close to the other foot or as far as the other foot as you need. So I'm talking both directions, both laterally and horizontally. So you want to find the foot position that gives you strength and stability, gives your legs room. So when you have bigger legs, it can be really uncomfortable and challenging to find balance when your feet are close together. So keep them at a good, comfortable distance. Remember that tailbone is facing as far down toward the mat as possible, obviously with your leg back. It's going to be back a little bit. We just want to make sure we're not pressing into our tummies, pressing our tummies out or our chests out. We really want a neutral spine here. So really, we're always looking for mountain pose in every pose we do for the most part. What I mean by that is we're looking for that neutral. We're looking for that neutral in the spine and the back. Those lines of energies, the shoulders relaxed away from the ear. The spine is nice and long from the neck all the way down to the tailbone. There'll be some curvature from the movement, and that's fine, but we want to try to still work to find that neutral wherever we can. Good job. Remember, the hands can be at the hips, they can be at heart center, they can be up overhead, palms facing in, closing those armpits by kind of reaching those pinkies energetically toward each other, not bringing the hands in necessarily. But remember, keep those shoulders relaxed away from your ears and breathe. Breath gives us life. It's so important. And maybe you let a little smile come across your face. Maybe this has gotten you a little anxious, not knowing if you're doing what I'm telling you to do, if you're doing it right. Maybe you're a little uptight. Doesn't matter if it's right. We're looking for sensation in the body. That's what we're looking for. If it's not exactly what I'm trying to tell you, does it really matter? If you're not hurting yourself, no, it does not. It doesn't matter. We're looking for movement, grounding, and sensation, and strength, and fire. That's what we're looking for. So let that smile slip across your face, telling your nervous system through your vagus nerve that you're fine, you're good. Your body is beautiful and is perfect just as it is. All right, now straighten that front leg. Press that back heel down into the mat. You could step it forward if that feels more comfortable. Hands come to the hips, bending at the hips, coming into a beautiful pyramid pose, tucking that chin, keeping a nice long spine. Again, look for that mountain pose spine. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful pose. I love pyramid. You don't even have to pitch forward much to feel it. Now, I should have told you before, but I failed and I apologize. But you can keep your hands at your hips, or you can bring them down to blocks. Find the comfortable position here. We just want to make sure that we are still keeping our hips in the right position, facing the front of the mat, relatively. We don't want to compromise the legs or the spine here. So do what feels comfortable. For me, I like to keep my hands at the hips, and I only need to be pitched forward slightly to really get a good stretch and feel this pose. Beautiful, beautiful job. Bend into that back knee, lifting that heel up. Bend into the front knee as well. We're going to come down to the ground into basically a lunge on your knee. So lower that knee down to the ground. Hands come to the hips. Stand up nice and tall with your shoulders through your spine. You're not actually standing. You're on your knee there in a lunge. Then we're going to straighten that front leg, hands still at the hips. Bring your blocks to either side of your extended leg. And again, we're going to bend forward like we did in pyramid, doing a half split over that leg. So kind of more of that hamstring stretch here. And as you're bending forward over this leg, think about your hips kind of sitting back into that pose. I should have said that first. My apologies. You're kind of sitting back a bit. You don't want to try to bend forward with your your back knee at a 90-degree angle. That might make it a little challenging, so sit back a little bit so hips start to move toward the foot. The back toes are tucked under. Good, beautiful job. Feel that stretch, the extended leg, the toes are facing up and pulling toward your face. This really lengthens through your hamstrings. If that doesn't feel comfortable, you can also point the toes or just try it. It doesn't even matter if it's comfortable. You can point the toes and feel that stretch in different parts of the leg. You'll still feel it on the hamstring, but there won't be quite as much pull, which might be good if you've got any kind of sciatic issues. You don't really want to be yanking and pulling on that hamstring. Gentle. We're always looking for gentle. We move toward the edge of what we can do, but the edge is defined by what is still gentle, what you can breathe through, and where your body is still at a level of ease. Ease meaning being able to breathe and speak. There should be no grunting. All right, beautiful job. Now bring the that extended leg in, so you're going to be on both knees now. Standing on both knees. Of course, I should have mentioned this, but you can bring a blanket underneath your knees for additional padding and comfort. You can also fold your yoga mat up. Go ahead and adjust that now if that would be better for you. All right, keeping your hands on your hips. We're standing on our knees here. Our toes can be, your feet can be flat, the tops of the feet pressed into the mat, or you can tuck your toes under. Do what feels best for you. If you have pain in your knees, then a lot of times tucking the toes under will be a little bit more comfortable. It kind of shifts the muscles in the knee and the kneecap a bit so that the knee is a little bit more protected. So do what feels best for you here. What's more comfortable. Good. Now we're looking for that beautiful mountain pose right here. So you're basically in mountain pose on your knees. So your knees can be together, they can be apart. We don't want them too far apart. It's okay if they're pressing in toward each other, the flesh is tight here. You just want to make sure you can stand up with some level of ease. All right, bring in the hands. Now the hands are coming to the back now. Think about if you had jeans on, you want to slide your hands into your back pockets. Bring your hands to that position. So the elbows are facing the back of the room, fingers facing down toward the ground. We're going to press into a camel. So we're going to literally use those hands to press the hips forward. Keeping the hips over the knees is really important. So we're pressing and arching that back, getting the beautiful flexion in your spine, coming into this beautiful camel position. So keep pressing your hips forward, 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 and arching that spine, keeping your chin tucked. So we want to keep that neck nice and long still, and we do that by tucking the chin. Don't really want to be looking back. You can look up a little bit if you want, but you always want to make sure you can swallow. So you don't want to dump your head back, dropping it back. You want to still keep the spine in a good protected position. So make sure you can swallow if you face your head, or if you dump your head back a little bit. I like to keep my chin tucked when I'm in camel. If you would like a little bit more here, feel free to bring the hands to blocks. You can do one at a time. So you can bring the block next to your feet, and if you need to stand up and adjust really quick, go ahead and do that. Bring the block. It's going to be about near your ankle, and then you could do one hand at a time, just bringing that hand back, grabbing the block, or you could grab the ankle if that feels better, if that's available to you today. And you want to do both sides, so you can either do both sides one at a time, or you can do both sides together, opening your heart up into that beautiful camel pose. Now, if you're doing one arm at a time, take the other arm and lift the other arm straight up to the sky. So you've got one hand on your block, and then the other hand is lifted straight up to the sky. Now thinking about opening your chest up here. So your chest is still facing the front of the mat. We don't want to bring that back shoulder back too far so that the other one starts to move forward. We lose a little bit of that beautiful heart opener in that. So try to think about opening that chest all the way up, almost like both hands are back, and both hands can be back. And that will really open up the chest, but you can still get a beautiful heart opener even if you're doing one hand at a time. So making sure you're switching sides as I'm talking through this, or doing both sides. If you've already done both and you need to come out, go ahead and come out. Breathing, breathing, breathing. Nice long breaths here. We should be able to breathe throughout our entire yoga practice. That's what I mean when I talk about ease, not easy, but ease in the body. We don't want to be fighting and holding our breath because we just put our nervous system into fight or flight, which we don't want to do, obviously. All right, absolutely beautiful job, beautiful job. So coming back up, you want to stick the other leg out, the one that we haven't done half split on, so we can even that body out. So putting the other leg out nice and long. Back feet, you can adjust your toes here, either tops of the foot pressed into the mat or lifting or tucking the toes under. Other leg out nice and long, nice little micro bend in the knee here. We want to make sure we're not locking it out. Toes can be facing up and pulling toward the face, or they can be pushed out, pointed away from the face. Hands come to the hips, and then bring your shoulders forward, bending over that knee into a half split. Make sure you're not bouncing. We want to avoid kind of that bouncing movement. Just gentle, slow, tuck the chin, keep the spine long here, looking for that mountain pose. Make sure you're breathing. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Beautiful job. Hold here for a few more moments. And then when you're ready, we're going to come into a tabletop position. So bending that, bringing that leg back in, bending it, just so you're going to be standing on both knees. Hands come to the mat. Tabletop position. What are we looking for here? We're looking for mountain pose in the spine. So tailbone is faced toward the back of the room, chin is tucked. So you've got a nice long line from your tailbone all the way to the top of your neck and out through your head. Think about your spine being a pipe, and you want it to be nice and smooth. So whatever's running through there can run through without any blockages. Beautiful. Facing those, you want to think about spreading your fingers out when you're in your tabletop position, really grinding those palms down into the mat, really rooting as if your palms had physical roots in them and they were pressing into and growing into the earth. Good job. Hold here for a few moments. Just find your breath here. Find your neutral spine and just breathe. Breathe. right, now we're gonna take your left leg, extend your left leg out, toes pointing toward the ground. You can lift that leg up if you want, or you can keep the toes toward the ground and the leg just extended out. If you want a little bit more, lift that opposite arm up and out long. As long as you can be from your fingers to your toes. Now, as you're balancing in this position, think about everything still reaching in toward midline. So that palm facing in, pressing in toward midline. That leg pressing in toward midline, toes facing the ground. Midline, midline, midline is our friend. Brings us amazing amounts of strength and balance. Now switch sides, extend that other leg out, toes facing the ground. You can either keep the toes touching or lift it up. Making sure not to let that hip lift. We're lifting purely, lifting from the hip. So your glutes are doing a lot of the work here, but we don't want the hip itself to actually move and lift up, if that makes sense. If you have champagne glasses on each of your butt cheeks, we want to make sure neither of them spill. If you want, you can extend the opposite arm out, palm facing in. Spread those fingers nice and wide. Tuck that chin, keeping a nice long spine. Everything pressing in toward midline. Such a beautiful strength building movement here. Everything in your body is working. Good job. Beautiful work. All right, lowering that leg, bringing the knee back down to the ground. Hands come back down into your tabletop position. Very nice. So we're going to work some cat-cow position here. So think about bringing your chin up, releasing your spine and your tummy toward the earth, broadening those shoulders back toward your hips. So everything kind of opening up as that spine comes down. You're going to breathe in a nice big inhale. Now as you exhale, you're going to press the ground away from you, literally away from you. Tuck the tailbone under, kind of arching your back like a Halloween cat, bringing the head down. Push, push, push that ground away. As you exhale fully out, pushing everything out and away. On your inhale, we're going to come back, bringing that head up, chin up. Tummy and hips start to come toward the ground. Shoulders are moving back toward the hips, opening everything up in the front. As you exhale, pushing the ground away, head comes down, pressing that back up, 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 tucking the tailbone under. So do a few rounds of this, syncing with your breath on your own here. Beautiful work, absolutely beautiful. All right, when you're ready, you're going to come back into your tabletop position and then come into a seated pose onto your bottom. Now, if you've got a bolster there or a folded blanket or 2 blocks, you can sit up on that to get your hips up, to give your legs a little bit more room when you come into your crisscross applesauce or easy seated pose or Sukhasana or whatever you like to call that pose. So bringing your heels in toward your body, crossing your legs over, sit back into this pose. Sit up nice and tall. Nice and tall. If this pose ever doesn't feel comfortable for you to crisscross your legs like this, you can also come into a cobbler's pose, which is or butterfly pose, some call it, where your feet, the soles of your feet are touching each other and your knees are out. So it looks similar, but your legs aren't crossed in toward each other and toward the body. The soles of the feet are pressed in toward each other. You can also, in either position, you can put blocks and blankets and things under your knees. You want to be able to find ease in your hips and your legs right now. We don't want this to be an active pose in the legs necessarily. We want rest here for the legs. We also want to make sure that chin is tucked, shoulders are relaxed away from your ears, tailbone is facing the kind of the earth. We just want to make sure that you're not sticking your butt out or rounding your tailbone under. So you want to have a nice long spine here through the lumbar, which is that lower back area. So you can even put your hands back there and notice, is there bend here? You want to try to avoid that bend and have a nice long spine. Good, beautiful job. You can close your eyes if that feels comfortable, or you can keep your eyes at a 45-degree angle, just a soft gaze. What we're looking to do by closing the eyes or keeping the lids lowered is to minimize the amount of light and information that's coming in. So take a few nice deep breaths here, slow everything down. You did a beautiful job in this practice today. Just want to slow things back down. So start breathing in through your nose and then audibly pushing that breath out. So it will sound similar to this. As you breathe in, your exhale. So we're just forcing that air out. So do a few rounds of that, breathing in and then pushing that air out, emptying every single bit. Now I want you to think about, as you breathe out, a sigh. A sigh is one of the most calming things you can do for your nervous system. It signals to your nervous system that you're safe and everything is fine. So as you breathe in, your sigh, tells your whole body that you're good, you're safe, you're okay. So you can utilize this in times of high stress and anxiety, using that sigh, the audible sigh. My husband always asks me what's wrong because I sigh so much, but it's just because I carry a lot of anxiety, and so I'm just constantly trying to tell my body that I'm safe and I'm okay, and I'm not over here being passive aggressive at my husband. Good, beautiful. Take a few more regular breaths here. Just kind of go back to your regular breathing here for a moment. So I didn't tell you where your hands should be because they can be anywhere. But you can have them on your knees with your palms facing down, or you can turn your palms up. The palms facing down is more grounding. The palms facing up is more of an invitation, and more of an opening up. Inviting. Personally, I prefer the palms down. It's just more comfortable for me. Just breathing your normal breath here. So just start noticing the environment around you. Notice the mat, how it feels, or how the earth feels, or whatever it is you're sitting on. Just start to notice how that feels. Notice the air around you, the ambient air. Is it cool or is it warm? Is there a breeze? Is there a fan on in the room? Are you outside? Do you feel sunlight on you? Are you in the rain? I think that would be fun. Probably difficult, but fun. Just think about whatever that ambient air is in the room, how that feels on your skin. And as you breathe in, notice how the air is cooler on the inhale and hotter on the exhale. Start to get really curious about your body and the sensations that you're feeling right now. Just notice. Or is each butt cheek firmly pressed into the earth, or are you leaning? If you're leaning, notice that. Pay attention. And then try to come back into a center where both of your cheeks are pressed into the mat. Glutes, whatever you want to call them. Good job. Just take a few moments here. Breathe. Think about your inhale. Think about your exhale. Notice it. I want to thank you so much for practicing with me today and giving me this few minutes of your time. It is so greatly appreciated. I hope you enjoyed this practice working just through audible cues with no model. I know it can be really, really challenging. And you can't see a teacher, you can't see a model, you don't know if you're doing this right. I'd like to put right into air quotes because there is no right. There is no wrong. The only wrong is if you're doing something that's painful or pushing your body where you shouldn't be pushing. We want to avoid that. But there is no right pose. We need to kind of take that out of our thought patterns and remember that movement is beautiful and it's good. It's good. Safe movement where your body's at ease and you're breathing and you're moving and you're stretching and you're strengthening. That is so good. It doesn't matter if it's right, because it is right. Regardless, it is right. I'm so proud of you for taking this time today to do this self-care away from everybody else onto your mat, on that sacred space of your mat. Thank you again for practicing with me today, and I hope you have a blessed day.